Alexander Hamilton was a genius. Let's get that out of the way. He was an architect of the American financial system, the primary author of the Federalist Papers, and a man whose brain moved at 1,000 miles an hour. Unfortunately, his mouth and his quill moved at about the same speed. Hamilton's real defining talent wasn't economics. It was his superhuman ability to turn any professional disagreement into a deeply personal, blood-boiling feud. He collected enemies like they were rare stamps. He seemed physically incapable of letting someone else have the last word, an affliction that in the 21st century gets you into comment wars. In the early 19th century, it got you something significantly more permanent. His entire life was a masterclass in intellectual dominance, but also a case study in why being the smartest guy in the room doesn't matter if you alienate everyone holding a loaded pistol. The man who would famously end this obsession was Aaron Burr, Vice President of the United States, which is a detail people tend to forget. This wasn't some random bar fight. The Hamilton-Burr rivalry wasn't a new development. It had been simmering for over a decade in the delightful petri dish of New York politics. It started with professional competition as lawyers, escalated when Burr started a bank Hamilton saw as a rival to his own, and truly hit its stride during the presidential election of 1800. The vote was tied between Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr. Hamilton, who despised Jefferson with a passion, somehow despised Burr even more. He used all his political capital to ensure Jefferson won, calling Burr a man of no theory and someone who couldn't be trusted. Burr never forgot it. Hamilton basically chose his poison, and Burr was patient. The final straw, the thing that pushed it all over the edge, wasn't some grand political betrayal. It was gossip. After Burr lost the 1804 election for governor of New York, an election Hamilton actively worked to sabotage, a letter surfaced. It was from a Dr. Charles D. Cooper, who recounted a dinner party where Hamilton had allegedly expressed a despicable opinion of Burr. The best part? The letter never specified what that opinion was. It was the 19th century equivalent of a vague, passive-aggressive Facebook post. Burr didn't ask what was said. He demanded Hamilton disavow any and all despicable opinions he may have ever had about him. Ever. This was a trap. A general apology would make Hamilton look weak and dishonest. Refusing would mean, well, you know. Burr had found the perfect honor-based checkmate. Now, you couldn't just shoot someone. There were rules. This was the era of the Code Duello, a ridiculously elaborate system of etiquette for murder. It was a multi-step process involving formal letters delivered by a second, who was basically your duel manager. Burr sent his challenge. Hamilton responded not with an apology, but with a 1,000-word philosophical treatise on the nature of language and interpretation. He was trying to outthink the bullet. For weeks, letters flew back and forth. Burr's were short and to the point. Apologize or else. Hamilton's were long, condescending, and basically argued that he was too smart to be held to the same standards as mere mortals. Each letter just made things worse, digging him deeper into a hole of his own intellectual pride. With no intellectual escape route, the duel was set. The location chosen was Weehawken, New Jersey, a popular spot for this sort of thing because dueling was illegal in New York, and apparently New Jersey was fine with it. Weehawken was a secluded ledge on the Hudson River, quiet, private, and perfect for some gentlemanly violence. There was just one tiny, horrifyingly ironic detail. 3 years earlier, in 1801, Hamilton's eldest son, Philip, had been killed in a duel, on that exact same spot. Alexander Hamilton had coached his son on how to handle that duel. He had told him to throw away his fire, to shoot in the air to satisfy honor without bloodshed. Philip did, and his opponent did not. Hamilton was now rowing to the precise piece of earth where his son had died, following the same fatal code of honor that got him killed. The universe doesn't get more on the nose than that. On the morning of July 11th, 1804, they met. The weapons of choice were a pair of .56 caliber Wogden and Barton dueling pistols. These weren't just any pistols. They were owned by Hamilton's brother-in-law, John Barker Church, and had a bit of a reputation. They were beautifully made, accurate, and crucially, had an optional hair trigger setting. This means you could set the trigger to be ridiculously sensitive. A slight breeze could practically set it off. It's debated whether the hair trigger was used that day, but the fact that it existed adds a wonderful layer of technical ambiguity. Burr had used these very same pistols to kill a man in a previous duel. Hamilton probably should have known that. He was about to face a man who was, shall we say, proficient with the equipment. The seconds prepped the weapons. The men stood 10 paces apart. The rules were read. And then the sequence of events gets fuzzy, because the only people there were the 4 men, and they all had reputations to protect. Hamilton's second claimed Hamilton fired first, into the air. Burr's second claimed Hamilton fired at Burr and missed, clipping a tree branch overhead. What everyone agrees on is that Aaron Burr took his time, aimed carefully, and fired. His shot was perfect. The ball struck Hamilton in the lower abdomen on the right side, tore through his liver and diaphragm, and lodged in his spine. He collapsed instantly. The smartest man in the room, the man who built a nation's economy on paper, undone by a small piece of lead, all because he couldn't just say, "Sorry, my bad." Hamilton didn't die immediately. He suffered for 31 agonizing hours back in New York. The man who lived by the word was now unable to speak. His death caused a massive public outcry. The nation mourned the loss of a founding father, and public opinion turned viciously against Burr. In his pre-duel writings, Hamilton had claimed he would throw away his fire. Whether he did or not, publishing that letter was his final, posthumous act of reputation management. It framed him as a martyr to a barbaric code. As for Burr, his political career was not just over, it was obliterated. The sitting vice president was now wanted for murder in both New York and New Jersey. He finished his term as VP while dodging indictments, which has to be some kind of record. His obsession with honor cost Hamilton his life, but it cost Burr everything else. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more historical insights. Thanks for watching, nerds!